Louie Reyes died on October 26, 2025, and the news moved through the Philippine music community like a slow, respectful chord. The first public confirmation came from her husband, Cesar de la Fuente, whose brief message, part grief, part gratitude, set the tone for what followed. A cascade of private memories, recorded clips, and social posts from colleagues who had known Louie as a singer, a collaborator, and a teacher. The reaction was not theatrical. It was intimate, the kind of mourning that arrives in rehearsal rooms, over coffee after late sessions, and in notes passed between musicians who understand that a life in music is measured as much by the small practicalities of the craft as by headline performances. Tributes began with the people who had shared the stage and the studio with her. Fellow members of the new Minstrels remembered Louie not for big solos, but for the way she shaped ensemble sound. Arrangers and harmony singers recalled sessions where Louie's part leading steadied complex charts, where her suggestion to hold that space or let the horns answer transformed a crowded arrangement into something conversational. These were the technical gestures that don't show up in press clippings but matter immensely to collaborators. Phrasing that carved a sentence, a breath placement that made a line feel lived in, a willingness to soften a moment so an instrumentalist could shine. Several session players shared short clips of live takes, the sort of raw, unedited moments that reveal how Louie balanced authority with deference, leading without dominating, supporting without erasing herself. For younger singers and protégés, the tributes read as a ledger of mentorship. Louie's later years were given over to workshops, informal masterclasses, and one-on-one coaching that focused on interpretation more than technique. Her advice, as relayed in videos and posts, was practical. Warm up quietly before long TV shoots. Learn to map a set so the voice survives the run. Say no to sessions that will blur your identity. Her notebooks, annotated scores, transcribed phrases, and hand-scrawled reminders became heirlooms, passed from voice student to voice student. Protégés described Louie as a patient editor. She would ask a singer to sing a line 3 ways until the phrasing landed, and then ask why they chose each variant. That insistence on curiosity, not imitation, surfaced again and again in the messages. Louie taught people to listen differently. Journalists and broadcasters responded in a different register, calling attention to the fragility of mid-century OPM archives. Within days of the announcement, radio shows scheduled special airings of vintage performances, and independent archivists began coordinating to locate master tapes and televised sets. Those efforts highlighted a structural worry. Many of Louie's filmed and taped moments exist only on aging media, in private vaults or the backrooms of stations. Musicians use their tributes to make a practical plea. Digitize these recordings, fund restorations, and reissue them so new listeners can hear the subtleties that live performances reveal. The conversation was urgent and specific. It was about preserving the craft as much as preserving a name. The emotional tenor of the tributes was consistently warm. Colleagues praised Louie's generosity in rehearsal, her refusal to take center at the expense of song, and her habit of making time for the young or less experienced. In one widely shared clip, a veteran arranger smiled as he told the camera about a late-night studio session when Louie corrected the band's tempo with a single humming phrase, nudging everyone back into a groove without speaking a word. In another, a former protégé described Louie's unglamorous but transformational advice on vocal health, how to rest during long tours, and how to plan a vocal life that lasts decades. These are the small economies of care that sustain musicians. They formed the core of many tributes. There were also stories of performance, vivid snapshots of club nights and television specials. Colleagues described sets where Louie would stretch a standard into a 10-minute conversation, using silence as punctuation and letting instrumentalists answer a question she posed with a melody. Promoters and venue owners remembered ticket lines for club nights billed as low-key jazz sessions that became electric because of Louie's presence. Audiences leaned in, listening as if each phrasing contained a private revelation. Those descriptions reminded listeners that Louie's appeal was not spectacle, but intimacy, an ability to make a crowded room feel like it was listening to a single person tell a story through song. Not all the commentary was nostalgic. Some voices used Louie's passing to critique the industry's habit of letting influential artists fade from public view. Cultural commentators noted that Louie's career arc, peak visibility in the 70s, quieter decades afterward, reflected broader trends. Limited archiving, market priorities that favor novelty, and the economics of radio and television that shrink airtime for jazz and traditional vocalism. These critiques coexisted with personal memories and did not feel accusatory, so much as clarifying. Preserving a musical lineage requires systems and resources, not only affection. Out of the outpouring came concrete plans, curated playlists, small tribute concerts, and collaborative fundraising to digitize fragile recordings. Several contemporaries announced intentions to compile a memorial release of Louie's rare studio tracks and live tapes. Others proposed a series of workshops and scholarship funds in her name to support young jazz vocalists. The initiatives reflected the twin impulses driving the tributes, remembrance and stewardship, and suggested that Louie's influence would continue through both archived sound and active teaching. In the end, the wave of tributes revealed how a musician's life circulates in multiple registers. The recorded hit, the remembered performance, the technical lesson passed in whispers between sessions, and the practical habit of professional care. Louie Reyes' passing catalyzed all four. Colleagues remembered a singer who taught by example, who prioritized the music, and who made room for others without diminishing her own voice. For many in the OPM community, the work now is straightforward. Find the tapes, restore the songs, teach the phrasing, and, in a listening that follows, keep Louie's quiet, exacting standard alive for a new generation. Louie Reyes' passing reminds us that true artistry is measured by mentorship, phrasing, and the quiet generosity that shapes other voices. Her 1970s work with the new Minstrels, decades of studio and teaching influence, and a recent wave of tributes and archival efforts ensure her voice and techniques will continue to teach and inspire new generations.